Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Silver Years. My name is DK, and I'm very happy to be here, and I humbly thank you for joining me. Today, I'd like to talk about the fractured condition of the human family and how we can bring some personal healing into these dynamics. As many of my videos today may reflect, a large part of my focus right now is about bringing awareness to our collective need to heal family distortions as we know it from the inside out, from within ourselves. I suspect most of us have experienced varying levels of dysfunction and distortion within our individual family units throughout our lives. And with those experiences often come the understanding of how disruptive those distortions can be for not only ourselves, but for the generations impacted by it. I've noticed these days that many on social media are promoting and even bragging about basically ghosting their families when they don't want to deal with whatever they perceive as a dysfunction or even a disagreement. So these groups are instead opting to walk away without looking back, without discussion or conversation, and removing themselves from contact with the family while taking their children with them, if they have any. And for clarity, there is a big difference between taking a time out to reflect and full on estrangement through ghosting. It appears some of this estrangement behavior might be because these groups don't know how else to address a problematic issue while protecting themselves at the same time, which can indeed be a challenge. And let me say here at the onset that sometimes walking away without looking back is exactly what needs to be done for the protection and well-being of all concerned. Even so, in the act of walking away, many are assuming that to disconnect from their generational inheritance is to resolve the distortion without ever having to personally deal with it. And I can see why some may think that, for it seems, as a society, we've been socially programmed, in this country at least, to believe that our generational inheritance, which is basically our genetic and epigenetic history, doesn't really matter, that it's irrelevant and without influence so long as we deny its existence. Yet, even those who choose to walk away forever as the highest and best option still carry within them that generational inheritance, whether they like it or not, whether they acknowledge it or not. Your generational inheritance became yours at birth, and its frequency will follow you wherever you go until, of course, you choose to change the frequency. I did a video a couple months ago called Family Trees Have Deep Roots, where I discussed this generational inheritance in more depth. If you're interested, just click on the attached link. It makes me think back to when I was in Montana running my whitefish title escrow office. I closed hundreds of transactions and saw many families come and go when buying or selling their Flathead Valley homes, something I mentioned in my book, Living the Big Sky Life. Many buyers came in from out of state, California being a popular one, convinced that their whole lives and their children's were going to instantly change for the better once they left the rat race, the big city, or whatever else they felt compelled to leave behind. I saw them come into town with high hopes, and then I saw them leave, usually within a year, disgruntled and disappointed that their lives not only didn't improve, but instead got worse. And by the time I saw them the second time, now as sellers, they couldn't get out of the valley fast enough. And most ended up going back to where they'd originally come from. And I wondered why that was. I concluded through observation, even then, that wherever you go, you bring you with you. Yes, I believe there is a saying to that effect. Wherever you go, there you are. In other words, if you don't change who you are first, you will recreate what you're striving to get away from wherever you go because of one common denominator. And what is that common denominator? The frequency of you is the common denominator. And it's the frequency of you that creates your reality and your experiences. Your locations and surroundings are oftentimes merely the stage. Before your experiences can truly change, your frequency within must change. And this involves a shift in perception. So, what does that mean when it comes to practicalities when dealing with family patterns and distortions that are playing out in the life you're living? My perspective about this issue today is that the only being we have control over is ourselves. I only have control over me. While we may have some influence at times over others, we have little to no control over our blood relatives and the members of our families and the lives they choose to live. And this does include our children after a certain point as well. And all of us are products of and subject to our generational inheritance, which includes our genetic programming through the bloodline and its undeniable and often subconscious authority over the frequency of you. This genetic program is heavily compounded throughout our lives with the governing social programs of the day and the indoctrination that comes in from, say, school, religious training, politics, corporate workplace, entertainment, sports, social media, government, etc. This is all social programming. In the end, we can't change the members of our family any more than we can change or heal the people around us. We can only change and heal ourselves, and that change must begin within. It involves a choice to heal. One of the biggest problems I see with affecting this change from within is that many of us we don't even know enough about our family history, our epigenetics, to know what generational pattern or distortion that needs healing in order to create the change we seek. Simply put, many of us don't know where or what we come from. What's that Maya Angelou quote? You can't really know where you are going until you know where you have been. In my case, a lot of it was hidden, not entirely intentional, but there was a lot hidden nonetheless. My mother, who was a product of the silent generation, was socially programmed to be ashamed of her very complex and messy history, and she never talked about it for fear of judgment, ridicule, condemnation, and whatever else. The same goes for her mother, my grandmother. As for my father, he didn't carry the same self directed shame and fears as my mother did. His shame was victim based and directed outward toward his parents themselves and their lack of sophistication and formal education. Because of this, my sisters and I were given very little insight into what influences our paternal grandparents and their predecessors brought to the bloodline through their unique experiences. And now their history, their oral stories, are lost to time. But that doesn't mean those stories were not energetically preserved within their genetics to then become a part of our generational inheritance. What I've noticed within our reality matrix is that if you don't have access to a true history, your backstory, if you don't know where you come from, you become vulnerable to manipulation, which in turn subjects you to the false historical narratives manufactured by those who seek to benefit from the manipulation, those writing his story. Your foundation becomes weak and vulnerable because it's based on falsehoods believed to be true because, well, you know no better. You know no other truth, only the false narratives that were taught to be truth. As Napoleon Bonaparte put it, history is a set of lies agreed upon. Speaking for myself, I am sick of the lies and false narratives perpetrated as truth across the board, from the world stage to the family stage, from the macro to the micro, and everything in between. On a personal, more micro level, I am sick and tired of the dark family secrets and traumas rooted in some hidden past that are securely swept under the rug and kept there underfoot for generations with no opportunity for revealing, let alone healing. Because of this, we have forgotten who we are, where we come from, and how the foundation of everything in life begins at home. And home means family. We have allowed the system to convince us that breaking up the family by breaking away from the family upon adulthood is what defines grown up success. Back in my day, parents of 18-year-olds were socially judged and shamed when their 18-year-old offspring didn't promptly become autonomous, financially and otherwise, by leaving the nest of their own accord out of high school, ready or not. And the only defensible exception was if that 18-year-old was going to college close to home. Why did that become the social norm? And who arbitrarily decided 18 years old was the breakaway point anyway? Because one size certainly doesn't fit all. And where has this manipulative lie, along with so many others, gotten our families today other than broken and denigrated? In our not so distant past, families were strongest when they lived and worked together on their homesteads while building a mutual legacy and providing a family village within the structure. A family village that created a support system that involved every generation in the development of future generations. Yet, when we contrast this approach to what we've been convinced to accept as standard today, what do we see? We see the full on deterioration and denigration of the family structure and the village that supported it. So, what happens when the village is no longer there to lovingly support the future generations? I'm sure most of you have heard the old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. And speaking from experience, it does take a village. So, what has replaced the village now that it's no longer intact and actually hasn't been for a long time? Well, we've had to outsource the village, haven't we? We've had to work harder to pay for all the things we need to replace what once came with the family village. Our children are now being raised and indoctrinated with some disconnected his story dictated by the government through the corrupted Rockefeller school system, where they are confined to spending most of their young days. And then, of course, there's paid daycare to cover the before and after times. Parents can't even let their children go outside to play alone anymore without being present and on high alert at all times. And they're burned out because they can't do it all. And they really can't. So, how do we change this? How do we improve the sorry state of our fractured families in today's world? For me, I feel an important first step is to stop the mystery history. You know, the hidden family history and damaging secrets that have been swept under the rug, even if it's ugly and traumatic. I'm going to say what I've said before. You have to reveal to heal. And family healing begins within each of us, individually and for ourselves. To heal is to transcend the program, and truth is a good place to start. No matter how independent we think we are not here alone. We need each other. And yes, we all need support and help sometimes. How nice it would be if we could come together as a human family with a focus, not on what divides us, but on what unites us, with a focus on how we can create a stronger family and community structures to support each other and our future generations in a healthy, balanced, and wise way. It's time to create a new village in a new way and protect our families. Because I, for one, do not want AI directed governmental structures telling me what a loving family should look like. We, as the human family, need to decide that and create it together. So, in conclusion, I'd like to leave you with a loaded question to ponder, as I like to do. If you could heal something within your family today, what would it be? Please leave your comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts. So until next time, be well, choose love, and thank you. Thank you for listening. Goodbye for now.